Hello. We're just getting started. Hi everyone. Good evening. Happy Women's Day. Thank you for joining in. We're just getting started. I'm just waiting for our guest. Hi Kanchan. Thanks for joining in. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining in. Just waiting for our guest. Few seconds. Hi Shway, if you're around, just ping me, wave out. It's lovely to see you all and a few familiar faces here. Hi Nisha. Okay, I think we have her here. Just waiting for her to accept. Hi Prey.
Hi,
Hi Shway, how are you?
I'm good. Let
Thank you.
me wait, what have I done? Yeah.
Your camera, yes.
Oh
Do you
no,
want to
not happening.
Yes, yes. Hi, lovely to see you.
Likewise.
Okay, so we have a few people over here, and hi everyone. Happy Women's Day to everyone. And we
Happy
are here,
Women's Day. I join you in wishing everyone.
yes, and we're here with a new episode of August Women's Series. And on the occasion of Women's Day, we thought we'll talk to someone who really believes in the cause of women, and who better than Shway. She's a feminist. She's a sari evangelist. I can see she's wearing a beautiful, gorgeous sari right now. She's an
Thank you.
IP lawyer, and she set up an all-female, all-women law partnership in India, which is by no means a child's play. And thanks Shweta, for coming over. It's just I'm so happy to see you and to be talking to you.
Likewise, thank you so much, Vidhi. Absolute pleasure being here.
Okay, so we'll get started. And Shoy, I'm very interested to know about your journey. Like, how did it happen? All these partnership, law partnership in India, not easy. So, how was your journey?
I think I can say this that along the way, one of the things I've learned is that the only way you can, sort of do things differently and do things creatively is if you do them yourself. And a lot of times, I think, and I found along the way some incredible women who are sort of part of the firm today. So today, for example, our firm has about 80% women, and I found that women are very creative when it comes to even the very traditional domains like the law. And so, while I won't say that I started out, to create an all-woman partnership, but it just happened that the you do work with people who think like you do, and somehow until last year we were an all-woman partnership, and so that just kind of happened organically. And even today, at every sort of strata of the firm, senior leadership, younger people, we have a lot of women. And what that's meant is, I'd say, two or three very broad things. One is that I think we're a far more empathetic workspace, which means that a lot of the things that people are talking about in the context of, say, work from home, more as a sort of doing it as a matter of compulsion rather than as a matter of choice were things that we had put in place already. Work from home, for example, was something that was available because we have a creche in the office, because you have women, younger women. I mean, I am the oldest person in the firm, so we're a fairly young firm, right? So we have people with young children, and so things like having a creche. We have a gym at work. Women don't always have the time to actually go out and work out when they're juggling so many different roles. So these are things that we thought of. We've had period leave for the last 5 years. 5 or 6 years when someone brought it up. So these are not new. I mean, people are talking about them as new concepts. We've always had them, and having women drive our organization has helped us put some of those policies and practices in place. Which therefore, and it's interesting because in 2018, Vahura, which is one of the, they do a lot of, they work in the recruitment space as well as they do a lot of consulting in terms of the legal business. And they ranked us among the top 3, places to work for women among law firms and all over the country. And it had all to do with our policies because they were women-led.
Yes, absolutely. And even at the Ernst company, so all our tailors are women, like 100% tailors are women, and we just have only 2 men staff in the office. And because of the pandemic, the tailors, their kids, they usually, on their online classes and all, and it's hard for them to leave them home and come here to work, right? So we just have this kind of environment where we work, our production and us, we work out of the same office. And, the kids come over, they study, they sleep, they take their classes, they're closer to their moms. And it just works out in a beautiful way because, apart from having just a very friendly environment, I think the mothers also feel very safe and secure because the kids are just around the corner. They don't have to worry about them constantly.
That's so important. I mean, for example, our office is in Noida, and there's always, concerns about safety and security, and not everyone drives themselves home. So we've always had transportation, which is provided by the office. We have a vehicle that picks everyone up and drops them home. So all we had to do post the pandemic lockdown, and when we all came back to office and started, started working in the office, all we had to do is we had to rejig the routes and figure out some carpooling so that everyone was, no one was relying on Ubers and public transport and could just come to office in a means of transport that was safe. So because we already had transportation organized for women, it was very easy to just extend that to everybody post the pandemic and ensure that we were coming back in a way which was, coming to office in a sanitized vehicle. So it was very easy for us to, sort of translate some of these things, and you realize that if you have good practices in place, then pandemic or no pandemic, you're able to handle transition of any sort.
Yeah. And while we're talking about this, so say you were until last year an all-woman firm. Any kind of biases that you faced? Because I know that, legal, this whole industry is extremely male dominated. So what kind of biases did you all face and how did you sail through that?
So, there's something that I talk about a lot, and that is, for example, today it's all very easy to embrace my grays. But I think this is one of the best examples of myself falling for this age-old bias that exists in our profession that gray signifies wisdom, and so unless you're a gray-haired lawyer, you must not be very wise, right? But I mean, jokes apart, I think. And I talk about this a lot, that today I'm able, 20 years on, this is my 20th year in the profession, I can say that 20 years on, that, I have no qualms in saying that in the early days, when I would go to court, judges would look at me and, address me as young lady. And they would say, have you come to ask for a date on behalf of your senior? Because the fact that a young lady was actually the arguing counsel was something no one would think of. And funnily enough, 2 decades down, what I find interesting is that overseas clients the biggest names in Silicon Valley, and you name it, because we're IP lawyers, um, major Fortune 500 companies and so on, have no qualms once they talk to us and evaluate us in having us represent them. Whereas I cannot tell you the number of Indian clients who even today question my ability, they question my confidence, they question my, representation of them in court. They're perfectly happy for us to do all the paperwork behind the scenes. But when it comes to the face in court, they want a man. And it's amazing because I think there's a lot of this is ingrained in the Indian mentality, which is the reason why both in terms of arguing counsels, senior arguing counsels in court, as also judges, you'll find women are so poorly represented both in the bar and the bench.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And in fact, like if I can share an example from my experience. So I started with these B2B exhibitions where, we'll just go, the buyers and the sellers will meet and all. So most of the times in these exhibitions, because we were only staff, we started off and bootstrapped. So I didn't have a big team. So usually in these exhibitions, my husband will come and help me out. And most of the times, the vendors and these buyers and all, they'll come and they'll start addressing to my husband. And he'll be like, listen, it's not my business. You talk to her. And they'll acknowledge it. They'll still keep looking at him and talking to him. And even though I am responding, right, but they'll still look at him, asking him to, validate everything and whether, they want to hear it from him. And it was, hello, it's my business, just talk to me. And it's still there. And I'm just talking about a year and a half back.
Absolutely. So when I was buying a house, and this is several years ago, and my then husband and I went to meet the gentleman from whom we were buying the house, and I started saying something about the contract. It was a very standard templatized contract that they sent us, and I had a problem with some clauses. So I said something to the gentleman, the builder, about the contract terms, and he said, "Agar aap bura nahi mane, to hum vakil sahab se baat karenge." If you don't, because he knew that the couple who's coming, one of them is a lawyer. So he said, "If you don't mind, I'll talk to vakil sahab." I said, "I am vakil sahab." So you talk to me, buddy. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know this always happens. And like when we're talking about this, so there's always this, it's ingrained in us how to blend in, how to be a part of the system, and how to not be a black sheep, right? And I know that you talk to a lot of people, a lot of students about this. I want to hear your views.
As a young lawyer, I remember as an Indian lawyer, what tends to happen is that when you're going for international conferences, and like I said, I'm an IP lawyer, so most of my clients are overseas. I travel overseas a lot, for meetings and conferences. I speak overseas a lot. And so I remember talking to some of my senior friends in the profession, and I would ask them for tips in terms of, whether it was outfits or the way I should look and how I should present myself and so on. And the one unanimous tip that I used to get, I'd say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, is that, make sure that essentially embrace homogeneity. That was the long and short of the tip, because don't make your clothes the talking point. Don't make, sort of your garments a distraction, so that everyone can focus on what you say. No difficulty with the fact that your garments should not be a distraction. That's fair enough. I mean, even today when I'm speaking at a conference, if I'm going to wear something, if I go wearing a meat dress like Lady Gaga, then obviously, no one's going to listen to my substance. And I do want people to hear the substance I speak. But having said that, the one thing I have resoundly rejected is that I should wear monochrome, I should wear grays. So I still remember this one time I was in London, and I walked into a law firm, which was a very all-white, all-male partnership. So it was a room full of, I think, about 12 people who were all white, all male, and all gray and all navy blue or charcoal black or whatever. And I walked in wearing a red blazer, and everybody turned and looked up. But by then, I owned myself. I had reached that point in my life where I owned myself, and I owned my style, I owned my space. So I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I recognized that this was not something they were used to. But I knew that once I opened my mouth and talked to them, they would not wonder about this tomato red woman who just walked in, but would care more about the fact that she was, the best lawyer they'd met. So I think somewhere you have to have a personal style. And in order to stand out with your personal style, you have to let that define you. So today, I let my personal style define me rather than wear something because everyone else is wearing it.
Absolutely, 100%. It should be comfortable. You should own it. And to that, I'll ask that, when you're growing up, it's so difficult to find your voice, to find yourself, right? So, a lot of our viewers might be very young, and when they watch it later, what is that one advice that you'll give to how to find yourself, find your voice? How do we, when you're young, how do you do that with so much societal pressure to conform to the societal pressure, right? How do you do that?
I think there are two things I will say. One is I find that confidence comes from knowing your subject, right? And I don't just mean the law or whatever subject that every person is in. I just mean that when you talk about something, talk about it with authority, talk about it with confidence, and you can know that if you read, if you're really comfortable about what you're talking about, if you know what you're talking about. Not everyone is necessarily an eloquent speaker or a confident speaker. They may be nervous. If you're going into a big meeting, prior to that, make your points. Make little note cards where you write down your salient points. Glance through them before you go into the meeting. But when you go into the meeting, be 100% prepared. I always say this, 20 years down, even today, I would rather be over-prepared in court. I will not give someone an opportunity to say that, hey, she wasn't good enough, right? Yeah. So I would rather be over-prepared rather than under-prepared on any given day. But having said that, when you're saying something because you believe in it, don't look around you for validation. It's easier said than done. It's harder to implement, but I recommend this small exercise that I tell everyone to do. I talk about occupying spaces. When you want to occupy a physical space in a room full of men and have your say and be heard, begin with baby steps. And the way to do that is when you walk into an elevator, if you find that you're the kind of person who always shifts to the corner to make way for the men who walked in, don't do that. The next time you're in an elevator, stand firmly, legs splayed in the middle of the elevator. Don't move. Don't make way. Let others find their spaces around you. You firmly occupy that central position in the elevator. Practice that every single day. Then you'll find that your tendency to move way, make way, and let other people come in, and then to fit into little corners, that starts changing. And when you start doing that, so I think occupying physical and occupying psychological spaces go hand in hand. Absolutely. When you start doing that, you find that it becomes easier to start occupying spaces in conversations than to not look around other people for validation. So that's an exercise I always tell everyone to do, that's the way to start.
And apologize less, right?
Apologize less. Oh yes, we women say sorry all the time. Look at your sentences, right? When you look at an email, don't only focus on the content of the email, look at how you've worded it. Are you saying, I think it would be a good idea too, or are you just getting straight to the point? Like yes. I practice tough love. So if I don't like something, I write back saying, no, this doesn't work, full stop. No apologies, it's shorn of all of that stuff. Because I always tell my clients that you're paying me for my advice. You're not paying me to pussyfoot around you, right? You want straight advice, straight off the bat. You're coming to me, you want strategy, you want good legal advice. That's why you're coming to me. You're not coming to me because I am accommodating, because I let you, sort of take the call or whatever it is, whatever else, right? That's not why you're coming to me. Absolutely. So I will just give it to you like it is.
Absolutely. It should be short. It should be crisp. And summing it up, you should be prepared for your meetings, read a lot, know your subject. And I think apart from that, I would also say know yourself. Knowing yourself, your strengths, your personality, the way you think, why you think, just doing that analysis about yourself, your own self, goes a long way. That gives you the confidence, because you know what? Then you feel that no, I'm not wrong because I've analyzed myself from all point of views. Like, and it's hard. It's hard to take two steps back and be critical of your own self, and not overtly critical, which we women generally are. We're too hard on ourselves, but just thinking as a third person that, okay, if this is the subject, this is, the strength, the weakness, this is how she is, this is how she reacts. And I think that has helped me definitely.
For sure, I agree with that. And coming back to your earlier question about garments, I think the other reason why when I say talk about, when I talk about developing one's personal style, what I'll add to that is comfort. Because, I mean, I have seen colleagues who have felt the pressure to be in a particular kind of skirt and blazer in a meeting, right? So you find that they're not comfortable because that's not what they normally wear. So if you wear something very different and come into a meeting which is not what you normally wear, and that's not something that you're comfortable in, you end up in a situation where I've seen colleagues do that, like, they're busy managing the hem of their skirt, or
Yes.
checking out whether their legs are appropriately crossed rather than focus on the content. So that's why, your clothes go a long way. But yeah, coming to, I'll quickly take this question from New Chapter. That's not how customer service works in other professions, though. So how can you be polite and firm? Actually, I think you've answered it. It's about being polite and firm. If you know you're right, make your point in a humble, leave your, so let's take the garment business, for example. Someone is being unreasonable with respect to something that, you have sold, and you stand by your product, you believe in the quality of your product. If there's a genuine issue, address it. If there is no issue and you feel that the person is being unreasonable, lay it out there. Be clinical, be firm, be polite, right? At the end of the day, I don't believe the customer is always right to the point of being unreasonable, right? The moment I feel that if you lose your temper, you've lost the argument already. You've lost the battle. And I think women have the ability to do this very well. This polite yet firm is something that comes to us quite naturally. Let's tap into that, right? Let's tap into that strength.
Yes, we've been molded that way. Just be polite, yet be very firm. And I'll just tell you one of the incidents we had very recently. So this lady, she bought a dress from us, and after around 2 weeks, she calls us up that, you know what, this is torn. And we're like, that's not possible because we have very strict QC procedures. And if something that is torn will not go out of our office. And she's like, no, I got it torn. And she's sending pictures and everything. We looked at the pictures and it looked like a rip, like you fell down and it just ripped apart. It's not a defect. It looked like someone has fallen. And she went to the extent of saying that if you don't replace it, I'll go to social media and talk about you. So, there are all kinds of people everywhere. And, when we...
that's the unfortunate part about social media, Vidhi, that a lot of people use it to threaten, to bully, to blackmail. The moment you're firm, because if you're given once, you find yourself giving in every time. So you have to, take a stand. You have to leave all the... So, for example, like you said, you talked about quality control. Share the documents which show the quality control having been done on that particular garment. Share the documents and say, this is quality checked. I have the records. This is the serial number pertaining to your purchase. Sorry, not buying it. Right? So if you have your paperwork in order, then it's very easy for you to take that firm stand.
So after that, she reached the point, no, I think there's a problem in the transport. And then, we're a startup, right? For us to get a handle on Shiprocket and FedEx, it's very, very hard. FedEx is not going to give us those kind of documents easily. So we thought, okay, just send it back to us. Let us analyze it. What happened? And, there were stains, mud stains on that. So she literally had fallen down wearing it. And there were holes in that. And she thought, what better way? Just return it. And yes. And then, we have to be firm that, listen, we are not refunding. I'm so sorry this happened, but we cannot refund.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ask for the garment, you give them an analysis of your findings, keep a chain of correspondence. Then if she chooses to put it out on social media, you put your response out there politely and firmly. Simple as that.
Yes. So Yes, this is something that we all need to learn how to be respectful, polite, yet stand our ground. Very,
Absolutely.
very. Coming to the pandemic, how did you all fare? And I'm sure we were just talking about it. A lot of women, even in the urban sector, had to let go of the jobs because the kids were home, and all of us are juggling with so many hats, so many roles. It just gets so difficult. I have my production staff, so I know how hard it hit all of them. But would you like to give me some view on how is it shaping up for the urban women?
I think one of the biggest things that you realize in the course of the pandemic is that uh, women, particularly urban women, actually don't have any collective bargaining position, right? No one's talking about urban women as a collective.
Yeah.
We don't have, for example, uh, any data or statistics that are being compiled and shared. So what I thought recently was very interesting in relation to something that NASDAQ is doing, proposing, having an audit of companies and, directors of companies that are listed to see if what their minority representation is. So that includes gender minorities, that includes sexual minorities, etc. So I think sometimes it's just important to lobby with organizations and firms which do, say the big four and consulting firms and stuff like that, and to have conversations with them and say, why aren't you doing studies to see, what is corporate India doing in order to make things easier for women? Why is there such a large number of women who are dropping out of the workforce post the pandemic? Because schools haven't opened, companies are now making it mandatory for people to join back. And they
Yes.
find that they have to care for young children at home and they just don't have alternatives. So if corporate India is not making those alternatives available, then by all means, name and shame, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have reports coming out, if there is no lobbying, if people who are prominent are not having these conversations, if you're not talking to your local MPs, etc., and people you've elected into power to say what is happening here and why aren't you doing anything about it, we're not going to have friendly workspaces. And that
Absolutely.
is, I mean, like I said, something as simple as period leave we've haven't had in place for at least 5 years. But even today, you find a lot of companies balking at the idea because they think that women, sort of overreact, and what's that about, even.
Yeah.
So, let alone continuing work from home.
Yes. And why do they need it? And just questioning that, why are you want to leave? It's okay. Like, take a tablet and just come to office.
Yeah, sure.
So
I mean, today, uh, despite the fact that the law on sexual harassment in the workplace is meant only for women, we have a gender neutral law because we recognize the fact that anyone can be sexually harassed. So the point is, it's time that you make these conversations mainstream. We talk about sustainability and so on and so forth, but let everything not become a hashtag one day of the year.
absolutely.
Have these conversations, hold companies accountable. Companies that have bad practices, talk about it. That's how
And
the conversation starts.
absolutely. I think talking is the first step. And then comes, women just getting together as a cohesive force, supporting one another, which is what is needed. Like, how do you think we can support one another?
So, I mean, there are so many, for example, one of our clients, Jobs for Her, are doing so much in terms of getting, women who've left the workforce to come back in, mid-career and stuff like that, after babies or after a long break. So even if you get firms like that or companies like that that are representing women who are trying to make a comeback into the workforce to actually be like a central point to lobby for these women, or to start these conversations, get women, prominent women, where there's so many women in the PR and media space. These women have to start making these an issue. Talk to people like Faye D'Souza or whatever, people who are willing to take up the causes of women, Barkha Dutt or whatever, journalists and so on, and start conversations around it, create events around it, right? And when you start having these conversations, then what ends up happening is that there is an overall realization that there is systemic change needed. Once
Yes.
that realization happens, I know that in the legal space, for example, there are times when we see I mean, I see, for example, that I'm part of an international organization, suppose. Typically doesn't happen with international organizations, frankly. I will say it still happens in India, where nobody even thinks about the fact that a panel has been put together and it's entirely a male, and there are no women on the panel. So if I'm there and I notice that, I will call it out. I don't care. I mean, a lot of people care too much about, oh, I don't want to say this. There are senior people here. I'm like, no, that's okay. You know, I do need to call out the fact that there are only men on this panel. Are you suggesting that there is no woman who's competent to talk on the issue? Where is the representation?
Yes. And we have a comment. In apparel for 30 years, working for corporates, and was never told we must make things aware. Yes, absolutely. Awareness is the key. And this is like Shway is saying, we need to talk more about it. That's how we generate awareness. And I think that's when we feel that we're not alone in all this, right? There are others who you can bank on for the support. Like one day when you are down and out, there's someone else who's fighting for the same cause. And, it's just that whole support, that cohesive support that comes together.
And I think that is changing. I mean, I love the fact that, for example, the two spaces that you see in popular culture, one is in films and the other is in comedy, in stand-up comedy. There are so many women and they're all friends, right? And they're all friends. They all rally for each other. They stand together. It's very encouraging because this whatever this myth is, and whoever's writing those soaps on television, the fact that a lot of the traditional television soaps are getting rejected in favor of modern content on OTT platforms is telling you that people are rejecting, those stereotypes. People are rejecting the notion that women can't be friends. People are rejecting the notion that professional rivals, women who are professional rivals, cannot stick up for each other. So, you need people who are prominent to have those conversations, to say, hey, this is how we do it. And that is going to inspire others to do that as well. So the fact that you and I are having this conversation today is hopefully going to inspire younger women of our tribe to think about these issues.
Absolutely. And we in our own ways can just simply contribute to it by being nice to someone else. That's about it. That's all it takes. Sure. Just pass on the kindness in favor.
Yeah, and whether you're 5 years in the profession or you're 10 years in your profession or 20 years in your profession, there will always be someone younger. There will always be a greenhorn who's just entering, who's likely to make the same mistakes that you did, and who you can help by simply mentoring, by telling them how to avoid those same pitfalls that you once faced, and simply by holding their hand, right? So mentoring you don't need to, be gray-haired like me to mentor. You can mentor even if you're 5 years down, right? You just have to make yourself a little bit more available to answer questions, to respond, to give out a little bit of free advice in whatever space you're in. If you mentor other women a little bit, they will have the confidence to not make the same mistakes that you did.
Yes, absolutely. It all is just about, the thought and the time that you have to give out and nothing else. So we always say, and I've even gone ahead and put it on our website in the founders note that, any budding entrepreneur, anyone, if you think that we can help you in any possible way, please reach out to my email ID. I'd love to help you. I mean, I never claim that I'm an expert, but whatever little I know, because I'm from a non-fashion background. I was in business analytics, data analytics, and then I moved here. So I've learned everything the hard way. And, if I'm able to help someone, why not? I would love to do that.
I mean, I'll talk about the fact that, in the textile space, I mean, obviously, I don't come from that background. It's just something of interest. But I've been doing these videos on copyright and design law and stuff, little short videos that I've been doing on Instagram and and I answer questions every day, literally, where people reach out and ask questions about copyright and doubts and stuff like that. So sometimes it's just helpful to give out that advice so that, the typical pitfalls when it comes to copyrights, when it comes to design, the law, which everyone thinks is very scary. If we can just give out a little bit of advice, make little videos that help people, and by all means, if people want to come together and put together something and have conversations around that, then again, it's helpful for people in the garment industry.
Correct. Absolutely. I think, Shway, as much as I would like to continue, we're on top of time, but, one last piece of advice that you might have for a small startup like ours. I'd love to hear that.
I think you guys are, I mean, I was a buyer before I was invited to speak here. And I do say that you've got your finger on the pulse in terms of, I like the fact that you have clean lines, that your, material is fantastic. And I like the fact that your, sensibility is rooted in developing a signature style. I think that we love the fact that, frankly, in the early days, in when I started out and I was looking for clothes to wear, which would work in a corporate setup, I think one of the biggest challenges was that you only had those very boxy masculine shirts that Alan Solly and Park Avenue and all of them made, right? I love the fact that there are so many design alternatives that are available. There's so much that's there, bold, sassy, different for women of 2021. So I just think that if you focus on developing that signature style, focus on being an ethical brand, then that's really all that women like us are looking for these days.
Thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate this. This is what is very close to my heart. This is what we've been trying to do. Just paying fair wages to our staff. We don't have very stiff margins, just wafer thin margins. But I just want that if I walk into a market or a mall and if I see women around me wearing our clothes, that's it. That just gives me happiness. And that's what we're looking at. We're trying to revive the craft clusters. We're trying to give them little dignity and trying to make modern silhouettes very rooted in India. So that's what we're trying to do. And I'm so happy that, you're a customer before we even invited you. I mean, it just gives me a lot of pride.
Thank you, and I think you're doing it right. You're definitely doing it right, and all the very best to you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot hearing it from you. Thanks a lot, Shway, for coming over and having this beautiful conversation. I sure learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers will also learn a lot. And happy Women's Day to everyone.
Thank you. Happy Women's Day, and I do hope you have something to take back with you from today, each one of you. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.